Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. Today I will be talking about the Knight of Wands. If we have a look at this card, there is so much energy here. There is so much fire. He is riding a horse that is leaping, so everything looks like it just suspended midair. He's holding a weapon here, and you can probably guess what the weapon is. It is the Ace of Wands. So imagine what kind of power he has at his disposal if this is his weapon. There's a lot of fire as well here in his cloak. So his cloak looks like it's made out of fire, and it's joining these flames that are under his horse. The horse that he's riding is very lean. It looks more like a racehorse than a horse that would normally carry knights into battle. Those horses were a lot heavier. But this horse looks like it's very lean. It has very slim limbs. And we see that it's leaping. It's not touching the ground. And it also has flames. It has flames in his tail and in his mane. We can see that also the knight's hair kind of look like flames. So it's just flames everywhere in this card. If we have a look at his armor, he is definitely dressed for battle because almost all of his body is completely covered. We can only see a tiny bit of his face. He has this crest on his helmet, which is a winged horse, and we can see a winged horse on a helmet of Perseus as well. So Perseus is a great hero of Greek mythology, and this means that our knight is the hero on a quest. He is kind of like Perseus. He needs this goal to pursue. And if he doesn't have a goal, he needs to find one, whether it's going to be something important or whether it's going to be something destructive. But he always needs to follow something. And if we have a look at the symbolism of this black horse, so there is a black horse with wings on his helmet, but this symbol as his crest is repeated 3 more times in this card. So we can see the same symbol on his chest, here on his arm, and then once again in the corner of his saddle. I'm going to explain everything about the symbolism of a black horse in a moment, but first we need to have a look at where we are on the decan wheel. So our Knight of Wands is here. All of the court cards have 3 pips assigned to them. So the Knight of Wands rules the last decan of Scorpio and 2 decans of Sagittarius. And we'll go into more detail about the decans that he rules later. But first, I just wanted to show you how this relates to Celtic astrology, because there is a sign of Black Horse in Celtic astrology, and it's associated with people born between 25th of November and 23rd of December. So the time frame is kind of close to the time frame for the sign of Sagittarius. And we know that the Knight of Wands rules 2 decans of Sagittarius, so he will be very much influenced by the characteristics of this sign. And the way the sign of Black Horse is described, it tells us a lot about the character of the Knight of Wands. So I'm just going to tell you a bit about this, and we can see that it really relates closely to our card. Black Horse symbolizes death, rebirth, and dark forces, but is also representing strength and maturity to face what life brings. And think about it this way: if he has an Ace of Wands as his weapon, I mean, there is nothing he's afraid of. He wields this kind of power, and this allows him to be brave and to be able to face whatever happens. So people born under this sign, under the sign of Black Horse, are very wise. Most of them seem like they live a wild and impulsive life. They are extroverts and like to be there for others when in need. They are aware of other people's feelings, but tend to be starkly honest about everything. This frankness and openness does not go down too well with others at times. Despite being outgoing, these people are fiercely protective of their space and do not like anyone intruding. They will never divulge too much personal information. They lack discipline and are not the ones to give up on something easily. So you can start to see how the character of this card forms. And um, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So Sagittarius has this more um, direction towards righteousness and openness. This sign in Celtic astrology is ruled by Saturn. So we get kind of like a different side of Sagittarius here because some of the traits will be similar, but I feel like the sign of Black Horse in Celtic astrology is showing us like the dark side of Sagittarius, and this is very much connected with the Knight of Wands. If we have another look at the Decan wheel, we will be able to say a bit more about him from the cards that he rules. So our Knight of Wands is here, and he rules the Seven of Cups, the Eight of Wands, and the Nine of Wands. I feel like the most important card that describes him is the Nine of Wands, because this shows us his internal power, and he has this power that enables him to face anything in life. This is shown in this card here, where we have the power of sun and moon combined harmoniously. And this is something that is just like an inner light that you have within you. And no matter what happens outside, no matter what you're facing, what obstacles you have in your way, you are always able to push through this. And I feel like he has this quality of trying to push through life rather than go where it's easy. He doesn't like if things are too easy or too harmonious, then he gets really bored. And this leads us to the second card that describes him, which is the Eight of Wands. So this is what happens when he has no opposition, when he has nothing to push against. He starts making like quick, rash decisions. He's not thinking things through, and if it's too comfortable, he tends to just seek change. And this might mean that there's always something more interesting for him on the horizon. So, for example, he has a good job, but he's grown a bit too comfortable in it, and there are not enough challenges. So he needs to look for something else, even though maybe it would be more beneficial to him to stay where he is. But this is just this impulse that he has of always looking for new adventures, always looking for something new, and always thinking that if he changes, it's going to be better. That change will always be positive for him. That's how he sees it. It doesn't always work out this way for him. And if things do end badly for him, if he has found himself in a place where he's not happy, maybe he has failed at something, he really has no ability to cope with failure or with negative emotion. And this is where we see his shadow side, which is shown here in the Seven of Cups. So, the Seven of Cups describes a situation where we have some negative emotions, but we don't want to face them. We don't want to deal with them, so we just cover them up with the excess of pleasure. So it's like a distraction from feeling horrible about something that has happened in our life. And this, we can say that this is an addiction card, because this card will show if we are dealing with our problems through alcohol, through drugs, painkillers, anything really that covers up what we are feeling. And this is how he copes or fails to cope with his emotional side, because he is not in touch with his emotions. He doesn't want to talk about his feelings. So he is this person in a relationship that if there's an argument about something, if there's unhappiness, he will not sit down and talk about it. He will just storm out of the house and, go to a bar. This is his way of not coping with what he's feeling. But this is the price he pays for the immense energy that he has within him for action. So if you are so action oriented, and if you are always looking for something new, a new adventure, a new quest, then you cannot stop and think about your emotions. Like, this will only get in your way. I have a quote from the Book of Thoth for you describing the character of the Knight of Wands, so you can see what Crowley thinks about him. The moral qualities appropriate to this figure are activity, generosity, fierceness, impetuosity, pride, impulsiveness, swiftness in unpredictable actions. If wrongly energized, he is evil-minded, cruel, bigoted, and brutal. He is in either case ill-fitted to carry on his action. He has no means of modifying it according to circumstances. If he fails in his first effort, he has no resource. So we see that Crowley is very critical of the Knight of Wands, and he even goes to say that he is ill-fitted to carry on his action. So even though the Knight of Wands has all of this power at his disposal, he has all of this inner strength, still without the emotional side, he's unable to deal with failure, and therefore he is like doomed to fall into this negative lifestyle eventually, because he's not able to modify his actions according to circumstance. So he has this tendency of hitting his head against the wall and not realizing that there are other ways of doing things. And this is a very important thing for us to remember, that sometimes we feel that our emotions make us vulnerable and are getting in the way of achieving things. But we can see here that the Knight of Wands is all action and no reflection. He has no watery side. He has no emotional side, at least none that he wants to deal with. And therefore, he can never truly accomplish anything that would make him happy. I mentioned that he is all fire, and what I meant by this is that all court cards are associated with elements in two different ways. So there's like a primary element association depending on what figure it is. So knight, queen, prince, or princess. And the second association is by what suit they are in. So suit of wands is fire, and all knights are associated with fire. So he is fire of fire. And for example, the Knight of Cups, he's a knight, so he's primarily fire, but the second element is water, because the suit of cups is associated with water, so he is fire of water. And you will understand more of this as we go through the different cards, but we can understand a bit about him even from this association. The fire of fire, there is only action here, no emotion, no place for anything else, just action and spirit. There's something very interesting about where all of the knights are positioned in the decan wheel. So if we see our Knight of Wands here, he's associated with 7 of Cups, 8 of Wands, and 9 of Wands. And the Knight of Cups is again associated with 7, 8, and 9. So they always have these 3 cards assigned to them, of course in different suits, but it is always 7, 8, and 9. And this shows us that all of the knights on the Tree of Life are associated with the astral triangle, so with these 3 Sephiroth. I will tell you now a bit about how to interpret this card in readings. So, if this card describes an action, it's going to be something immediate, very sudden, strong action, very impulsive, and maybe like not well thought out. If it's an event, it's going to be something sudden, can be a revolutionary event, something very violent, something unexpected. If this card describes a person in your reading, then you already know a lot about his character. But I also wanted to add this, that this is someone short tempered with a lot of energy, but he's also very generous and he likes helping people. So, this is maybe what we haven't touched on before. He likes helping others because, like he is a hero on a quest, so of course he will go out of his way to help people. But there is also a bit of ego in this because he likes to be seen as helpful. So he likes the people to be grateful to him for helping them. I also wanted to tell you that whenever I think about the Knight of Wands and what kind of character he could be in a movie, for example, I always think about this cliche character of a policeman. So he's always on a hunt, he's always like on this quest to find the murderer, to find the bad guy and bring him to justice. And in his quest, he forgets about everything else. He just sees his end goal of catching this guy. But in the process of doing it, he loses everything he has in his life. He usually loses his family. At some points, usually his wife leaves him. And his way of coping with this emotionally difficult time for him is just to go out with his friends to the bar and getting drunk. So you can always see this kind of Knight of Wands themes in those policemen, that they're prone to addiction, they're, of course, like they want to help people, they have this righteous goal that they are pursuing with like all of their might, and usually they succeed. But you also have to see it from this perspective, like they achieve their goal, but what is the cost of doing that for them personally? So they are able to like sacrifice everything just to achieve this one thing. Whenever I think about what kind of a job he could be doing in real life, I always think about someone who's like a soldier, a police officer, a firefighter, paramedics, doctors in the ER, always someone who's in a really fast paced environment and they have a mission in their job. It's not just a job, it's like it's a quest. And there is this like righteous goal of like healing people or helping people, I don't know, saving them, catching the criminals. There's always this like hero type of goal in their work. And it doesn't mean that all of the people who are associated with this card will have one of those jobs. It can mean that they will idealize this type of job and they will think about it. They will maybe say that they always wanted to do something like that, but maybe, I don't know, their parents didn't agree or some life circumstance have forced them into a different career. But they will always have this like deep connection with these types of roles in life. If this card describes a partner or a potential partner in a reading, then this is someone who's really passionate. He's a very passionate lover. He will be very generous and charming initially in the relationship, but he might lose interest quickly. He's very changeable. So if someone else appears that he finds more interesting, he might just be gone and pursue this other person, or he might just become bored if things like settle down, if like his pursuit of you is over, and you know you're together and there is this normal domestic life, he might just be so bored with it, and he might become so restless that he will just start looking for, you know, new adventures, and he will start romancing with other people. So he is not stable in his emotions because he's not in touch with his feelings. So he does need this constant change. And, you know, it doesn't mean that he cannot have a long term relationship. It just means that he will need a lot of stimulation and a lot of change in the relationship, a lot of excitement. And of course, you have to be mindful of his tendency for addictions if this is someone that you are in a relationship with. So, you know, you just need to be mindful that this can happen with him. It doesn't have to always happen, but you know, like this is just something to be careful of. If this card shows up as advice, so if you're asking what should I do in this situation, this just means take a leap of faith, go after your desires, and like have faith in your abilities, because you are able to achieve what you want. If this card is advice, it means just go for it. If this card is an obstacle in your reading, then this means that maybe you have no plan for your action, maybe you are acting too soon, and you really need to take a step back and examine the situation and really think about why you want to do what you want to do. Because maybe this is just like an impulsive reaction to what someone else did. And, you know, just really re examine what you are trying to achieve and if this is the right way to do it. Because as an obstacle, this card usually means that you're just not thinking, you're reacting to something that has happened and you're just blindly going somewhere, and you know, like maybe it's not the best thing to do. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon in my next video about the Queen of Wands. Thank you. Bye.